turns out that your sixth grade math teacher was right. Math is going to help you all throughout your life. And we're going to tell you how it can help you in your financial planning on this episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning. Hi, I'm John Scherer, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel, and I've got a fee only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. This is Friends Talk Financial Planning. And John, what we want to talk today is about how math and your attitude toward math uh, matters with how you do with money. So, John, why don't you talk about just different examples of when math might impact how you make decisions?
Yeah, it's funny, Bridget, that a lot of financial planning doesn't involve math, right? It's about how you
Right.
act and how you feel and how you think. And sometimes people will say, "I'm no good at math." Like I'm not financial planning and investments. So really, a lot of times I'm telling people the opposite. Like, okay, math doesn't, but there are some places where math really does make a difference. And one of them, we just had a friend that sold a house, and so we were talking about the commissions that real estate agents make on things. And it's interesting that they provide a valuable service, and I don't begrudge them for what they make. But when you use percentages, that's one of the things that can really trip people up. And to put things in dollar terms or numbers, I think is really useful. So, as an example, on the realtor side of things, when you list with a realtor, typically you pay a 6% commission, is pretty common around here. And so if you have a $300,000 house, they take 6% and you get the rest. That sounds like, it's reasonable. But when you think about what the dollars are for that, 6% of $300,000, I can do math in my head pretty quickly. That's $18,000. You go,
Right.
oh, that's a big number. And it's not right or wrong, but 6% sounds like a lot less than $18,000. And so as you think about what goes on with that and what decisions that get made, that's one of the places where people can sometimes overlook the easy things. And so I guess one of the things I always tell people is that percentages can be deceiving, and
Right.
doing the math on things from that perspective is, yeah, and we joked about sixth grade math. It is just, what is the percentage, and go, oh, put it in dollar terms. What does that mean? So that's an example of one of the things that where math does play a part and can help you make intentional decisions and maybe better decisions about your financial life. Um, do you talk about that at all with clients, as far as whether it's percentages, or where does math play in a part in your practice as you advise clients?
Sure, of course. This whole thing reminds me, sixth grade, seventh grade reminds me of something that happened to me. So when I was a kid, I was in seventh grade. I remember this very clearly. This exotic new thing came out.
Uh-oh.
And they had one at our library. It was called the IMC, I think, at the time, which I don't know what that meant, but anyway, it was basically the library for our middle school. And I went to the library to check it out, and it was a handheld calculator. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I told my dad. He's like, wow, I've tried one of those. And he said, what'd you add on it? And I told him, and he's like, "Well, next time try adding something that you know what the answer is instead of
Uh-huh.
stuff that you don't know what the answer is." Because he wanted me to actually check the calculator
Huh.
in case I was
Uh-huh.
wrong. So the thing is that people think like you just did. What's 6% times 300,000? And some days I'm better at that than other days, frankly. And I think a lot of people are. Some days I want to go there in that activate that part of my brain. Other days I don't want to activate that part of my brain. But if I'm making decisions, I have a calculator. I
Yeah.
do a lot of math on a calculator that I could do on my head if I wanted to work that part of my brain. So I'm glad that I can do math in my head. And sometimes I actually work on doing math in my head just to keep that part sharp. But I don't feel like I have to do math in my head. And so I will use a calculator for the most
Yeah.
basic calculations. I just want to make sure that people understand that that's fine. I have in my life done plenty of math in my head. I took a large when I took the CPA test, you couldn't use a calculator.
Holy man.
So yeah, you had to do math, but that's okay. So I think with the realtor example, another example we could get into is, what are your thoughts there, John?
Well, as I'm thinking about this, what a great point you made about it's not, I do things in my head pretty quick, but it's not about that. It's about it's worth doing, right? There's some
Right,
math that's worth doing,
right,
and being in, and going into a situation where you go, okay, the person on the other end of the transaction probably has already done this math,
yeah,
and you're
right,
coming in as the buyer, and you go, I haven't done this, right? It's worthwhile. One thing that I think about is in our world of financial planning and how you pay for it, most
right,
people in our world just charge a percentage of assets,
right,
whatever investments you have with them. And well, what is that percentage? It's 1%, or it's never 75 basis points, because that's 75 is big. It's 3/4 of 1%. They're the same
right,
thing, but boy, 3/4 of 1%, that's a little. Well, if you can multiply that times your $1 million investment, that's $7,500, right? And so again, looking at things in dollars when it comes to your financial transactions and how you deal with your financial advisor, um, that is the other one of the other big things, is what are the dollars that you're talking about? Don't talk in percentages only. Um, and then one other thing, it's interesting as we're just talking here, Bridget, that popped into my head was so much of our world today is on subscriptions, and I'm thinking about my cell phone bill, right? Most people have a cell phone, and you don't. It's not a one-time thing. You pay on a monthly basis for that service, and somebody might think, oh, $75 a month for my cell phone, whatever the number is. That's reasonable on a monthly basis. But really, what that costs you is $7,500 a month. And again, get out your calculator, right? That's
right,
$900 a year. And how long do you keep your phone for? Or how long do you keep your cable bill? You pay for that, and it's a 5-year investment. Okay, $900. And again, on your calculator, 5 years, that's $4,500 over the next 5 years.
right,
And it's not right or wrong. It's not like, geez, don't pay that. It's it's don't think about it in these bite-sized pieces, percentages, or monthly. That's $900 a year
right,
of investment. It's $5,000 every 5 years. Reasonable, but then again, it's not right or wrong, but it's making intentional decisions for me is, oh yeah, here's what the dollars are, here's what I'm paying for it, and I'm choosing to do that, as opposed to, man, I didn't realize $75 a month, and then suddenly it adds up, and you go, golly, that's a big number. In looking at it in arrears, looking
right,
at it in advance, and say, oh yeah, I want to spend $4,500 over the next 5 years on my cell phone. Perfectly reasonable choice. So that's one of the things when I talk about putting it in, like at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's putting it in dollars
right.
and looking at dollars in chunks of, what do you spend per year for your different things that you have in your life. That really helps you to make intentional decisions and be and not go in blindly on things.
Right. And I really like your point that whoever is selling this to you has done the math.
Right.
They know what the math is. And so they, most people know, okay, what is the best sales tactic? Should we, if they said, we're going to sell you this chance to listen to music for 150 bucks a year, you're going to be less likely to buy it than 13 bucks a month. Or,
That's exact. I was just thinking that same thing. Right.
yeah,
Nobody ever says you're hey, for a cell phone, it's $1,000 a year. No,
right.
it's
And I mean,
$75 a month. Right. Same
I,
thing.
yeah, I spend money on these things. I like
Yeah.
them. I
Yeah.
enjoy them. But when you're buying something that is monthly, I look at it again, like you said, over 5 years, because I think that most people keep the stuff for 5 years. They don't
Hmm.
get rid of it, especially if it's a monthly service for some reason. So,
Yep.
now to wrap it up, I think that what we're encouraging to people that for people to do is to look at the math when especially when you're making big decisions.
Yep.
Look at your math and look at perhaps the salesperson's math too,
Yeah.
so that you know what other people's incentives are when they're giving you specific advice. And there's nothing wrong. That doesn't mean don't
Right.
work with the salesperson at all.
Absolutely.
There's nothing
Right.
wrong with them having their own, with them making money off of what they're telling you to do, but make sure you understand exactly what that is.
And my two takeaways would be, in addition, and well said on that, Bridget, but so two things to be aware of is percentages can be sneaky.
Yeah.
Put it in numbers, put it in dollars, and monthly can be sneaky. Put it in annual terms. If you do those two things, you can make a lot smarter decisions, a lot more intentional decisions. And then the third takeaway is, as with every episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That helps us to rise in the rankings, helps other people to find this advice and our show. So if you want to help other people, hit subscribe. And also, the topics that Bridget and I talk about on Friends Talk Financial Planning are some of the core concepts for the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, acplanners.org, and look there for an advisor in your area. So with that, Bridget, until next time.
Thanks, John.